Hello, I'm Craig Lynn. I'm talking today about Shoshanna Zuboff on Surveillance Capitalism. I'm here with...
And I'm Jake Oates.
It is a V-Pro documentary where Harvard professor Shoshanna Zuboff once again wrote her book about, it's called actually The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, and it reveals how big tech companies are basically taking our data and almost stealing it pretty much and using it to profit off of and selling it to other companies basically for them to profit basically without our knowing. Like, she uses a term, I think it's she uses the term bypassing our awareness pretty much to basically steal our data and use it for profit. How it goes about exploring the topic, basically it goes into a lot about Pokemon Go and how that was basically a big experiment. Business companies were paying Google to put like Pokemon in their establishment. So like there's like a Pikachu in whatever KFC, so you're like walking through the city going to that place, hopefully buying something. So yeah, they paid for this real world equivalent, which is called footfall, she calls it, in this thing. So they're basically getting paid for like every step, you know. They want them walking through past the gymnasium, get a gym membership, past the Starbucks, get a coffee, stuff like that, I guess. But yeah, she goes into a lot of other things. She talks a lot about Google Earth, how that was like a CIA startup called Keyhole. She talks about the Google Nest, how that like initially, or I'm not sure if it still does, has like a microphone in it. I feel like one of the main things she talked about was a lot with like, she made this like thermostat example with basically how, like basically your device's functionality is being held hostage until you agree to this privacy contract. And within that privacy contract is a thing where, probably the most important thing, which I was talking about earlier, how like the Google like will take your data and sell it to third-party companies, but they take no company takes responsibility for what the third parties that they're sending it to may do with your data. So like it's just like, it's like the whole thing is like a trap, and I feel like that's how you get like scam calls calling your number, you know, stuff like that happening, because it's just there's no responsibility with what they're going to do with it, so they just sell it to whoever for more and more profit. It's crazy. Yeah, what I believe like it's trying to say about the topic all in all is that we should be a lot more careful with what we do. Like, not go all out, like, I don't know, maybe not be careful, but like just be aware of that this is going on and like it's happening all around us at all times. Sort of like a PSA, I guess. Like, this shouldn't be happening. This shouldn't be the reality of, you know, our using our products. Like, we should, like, you know, we shouldn't have to pay the price of surveillance capitalism. But yeah, all in all, like, this makes a really good point. It's just like most of the data that these companies use are data that we haven't given, or like stuff that like we don't even know that we given because it's just like came in random things. Our walk in the park, a camera picking up, like, you know, random stuff. So they took it from our private experience without our permission, analyzed it, made it into products, sold the products, and took the profit. Illegitimate profit, because they took it at the beginning without asking, and then she goes once again bypassing our awareness. And I feel like that's Shoshanna's main point all in all. You know, it shouldn't be like this. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, that's what I think it's all about.
This documentary related to a lot of concepts we have discussed in this class. Specifically, this doc reminded me of Module 10, Unprecedented Threats of a Digital World. In this module, we learned about government surveillance in the digital age and how, after 9/11, the US government began surveilling their citizens much more than they ever had before. This reminds me of one of the comments made by the professor in the documentary. She discussed how eventually, in the Western world, in a democratic society, a government could or will eventually see the potential power in surveillance and in these tech companies like Google and want to utilize them for their own personal gain. I feel like this lesson in Module 10 displayed some of the warning signs of things swinging that way eventually, if the proper laws are not put in place. As, once the US government had a reason to, they enacted stricter surveillance rules. And really, what's to stop some future president or prime minister or any world leader for that matter from using this tech to hold on to power longer or get more money or more land or really whatever else motivates them? Overall, a lot of the ideas and concepts in this documentary relate back to the lessons in Module 10 in regards to human security in the digital world. This documentary connects to many human security issues. The first, of course, is the idea of what, in my opinion, should be considered illegal surveillance. This documentary basically made it seem like every single tech company on the entire planet is tracking us and stealing our information. This doc specifically took a look at Google and everything they have done in regards to surveillance capitalism, like with the app Pokemon Go, or getting into the cell phone business. A lot of the stuff that came up in the doc actually reminded me a lot of the app TikTok that has gotten really popular these last few years. An article came out that basically discussed all the terms and services of TikTok, and it basically explained that TikTok's own, terms of service tells the user all of the information TikTok is planning on stealing from them, including their IP address, type of device, time zone, user region. I mean, who really knows why TikTok wants all this information? I'm sure they're selling it to someone somewhere. Further, TikTok's terms of service claimed that the app can track your movements on your keyboard. So, for example, if you saw an ad on TikTok and you clicked on that ad and it was forcing you to buy, you had to input your information in it. TikTok could track your keystroke movements on the keyboard there, and basically steal or remember if it's a password you put in or something along those lines. And to me, this is just another example of surveillance capitalism blatantly being used against the consumer. Really, this documentary mainly discusses the many issues with surveillance capitalism and the many effects that have come from it. One interesting concept that came up is when the professor discussed how we just haven't done anything yet to really try and mitigate the effects of surveillance capitalism or create any laws to protect ourselves from it. Which, in my opinion, is another major human security issue, as we are just letting all of this happen to us basically without doing anything about it whatsoever. We're not intervening at all. So, in conclusion, this documentary deals with many important issues with human security when it comes to surveillance tech, social media, all that jazz.
I personally really enjoyed the documentary, even though it was pretty shocking at times, pretty scary. It's kind of foreboding, this big tech behemoth. I was interested in the imprisonment in China, or some of the things that were happening with advocates of democracy in Hong Kong. I was interested to hear more about that. From Facebook pictures to facial training software that's used to imprison people, that's a pretty far jump. People having fun with their family and friends, and then now it's used to imprison people and keep them tracked. Definitely made me think a lot more about my security online. But yeah, overall, I think it was a really interesting piece. How it's been a parade for surveillance capitalism these last 20 years, because these are things that have never been done before, so there's just no laws against it. I think that this documentary is I definitely recommend for other people, because it's interesting and it's important, I feel, to know that we're being profited off of. Our personal experience that we haven't given permission to give out is being profited off of. It's pretty crazy.
One issue of today that did not really come up in the documentary, but I feel is very relevant to the conversation, is the idea that we now live in a time where someone could cause immense harm to other people, other countries, governments, or really any institution without having to leave the comfort of their own home. We've seen many cases of social media or online tech causing major problems like fake accounts, like bot run accounts being made to troll people, hacking like government institutions like the CIA. Also like major hacks on apps like Facebook, where like everybody's information just gets leaked. You know, we kind of live in a time where everybody's information is like all over the internet, and most people don't really do much to protect it that well. And I think this is like a major issue that's going on today with like data leaks, hacking, all that kind of stuff. And I think this kind of relates a lot to the documentary's messaging.
Okay, but yeah, I think me and Jake are doing this part together with Bring It Today. So how do these issues relate? I think they relate a lot because Pokemon Go is still kind of in the media, but like in the news today, like I guess just with social media, like there's so many pictures that are still being posted probably to Facebook as well as Instagram, which is now owned by Facebook, I'm pretty sure. So that's even more data that's being used. It's like how people can be swayed by like news media, and how like news media basically just like puts people into these like portfolios, I guess, like you're either left or you're right or whatever, and like makes certain news media things like have different opinions, so it's like opposing political views on different news things. That's always been like a war, but that's doesn't really connect. I guess more is just like I recently saw these like memes of like with people getting like those Neuralink implants. Apparently that's like actually that's still happening. I guess I heard there was human testing, or like the first guy got it, and maybe more people have them now, but I keep seeing these memes of like zip bomb, Neuralink zip bombs, like how people are gonna get like transferred like huge terabytes of information that just like destroy, you know, their like, you know, memory or whatever, their brain implant thing. They just fry it like cyberpunk stuff. Like there's also a game, Cyberpunk 2077. A lot of this like stuff kind of reminds me of what like Cyberpunk the game is, and like that corporate tech or overlord thing. Like that's literally what's happening today, and it could escalate to that point. Who knows what the future holds, but like yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't know.